The time is now for the Dr. Bob Sports Podcast. I am Tanner. I am our head of analytics, and I'm in my 7th year working alongside Bob, originating our NFL and college basketball bets. And today, as always, I'm joined by our digital media specialist, Grant. It snowed in New Hampshire this morning. I've got to get the stakes down to mark the driveway so we know where to plow. Winter is right around the corner.
I do not miss that East Coast snow. I'm looking out the window right now. 65 degrees. Just got off the course this weekend. So I am very sorry for you, but things couldn't be better. We got NFL, college football, and college basketball going. And we saw college basketball just started, and we've got a preview of that big Arizona Duke game later on in the pod. But right now, let's talk NFL, where our first segment, where we will be grading these scriptwriters on how they did for episode 9 of this NFL season. So let's dive into the most exciting game of the week, where CJ Stroud's 470 yards broke the single game rookie passing record, as Stroud led his team back when they were down 4 with only one timeout and 46 seconds remaining. The Texans had a less than 10% win probability before going on a 6-play, 75-yard drive to win that game. I mean, that game was nuts.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy to see Stroud drive them down there at the end, but the entire game plan for Houston's coaching staff revolved around finally putting trust in their second overall pick. So you mentioned Stroud set the rookie passing record, but the crazy thing was 63% of those passing yards came on first down against the Buccaneers. And that was after we saw for the first 8 weeks of the season, Bobby Slowick, Texans offensive coordinator, banging his head against the wall on early downs, running the ball, consistent. I just have to put Stroud in third and longs all the time. I mean, that was not working out. Houston's rushing offense has only a 32% success rate on early downs. That's 29th in the NFL. And you look at the splits, it's insane. The Texans are averaging 7.1 yards per pass play this year compared to 3.3 yards per rush. So if they continue to shift this run-pass ratio and let Stroud unleash it, particularly on early downs, it is going to do wonders for this offense. And this week, I kind of like the matchup for Stroud. Cincinnati's defense is 29th in success rate to tight ends, and Dalton Schultz is 9th in yards per route run among tight ends. We know the Bengals' best player on defense is edge rusher Trey Hendrickson, who ranks 2nd in pass rushing efficiency, but he'll line up across from Texans Pro Bowl left tackle Laramie Tunsil, who's conceding only a 3.7% pressure rate. So a couple of nice matchups for Stroud this week. Dameon Pierce probably out again, so Slowick going to air it out once more, and we'll see what the rookies got again on Sunday.
It's kind of nice seeing an Ohio State quarterback kind of switch up the narrative there. He's been balling out, but
yeah, first one in a long time. I can't remember the last Ohio State quarterback to have this much success in the NFL. And now you think about the Panthers. I mean, they've got to be kicking themselves. It's become clear we're halfway through both guys' rookie years, and Stroud seems clearly better than Bryce Young, and you'll know how that game plays out when you're watching this podcast on Friday. But Young, I mean, if he can't get it done in Chicago on Thursday night, it's almost over for the Panthers, and it's so bad for them because they traded away next year's first-round pick for Young as well.
Yeah, this game is kind of a lose-lose for the Bears, since they're no matter who wins, it's going to hurt their draft pick between both teams. But let's shift it over to our next segment, where we've got the injury watch, and the Cardinals are finally getting their franchise QB back after his ACL injury last year. What do you expect from Kyler, and how is this going to impact the offense going forward?
Well, it can't get worse than last week. I mean, we had Clayton Tune out there making that bridge start after they traded Dobbs before the deadline. And right before, Kyler wasn't quite ready last week. And Clayton Tune had just 58 passing yards with 2 interceptions. It was one of the worst games we've seen from a quarterback this season. But Murray will be back this week. And I mean, Kyler is pretty talented. I mean, we've seen the Cardinals be rated as a slightly above league average offense for most of Kyler's career. And I don't think that was because of Cliff Kingsbury's scheme. I think it's mostly because of Kyler. And the Cardinals are going to have to let Kyler air it out because the Falcons are conceding a league low 0.23 EPA per rush allowed. So this is really going to come down to whether Kyler can use his legs coming back from the ACL. I mean, scrambling is such a huge part of his game. So if he's fully recovered and can scramble, particularly when the Falcons are in man coverage, then we could see, the Cardinals all of a sudden be a league average-ish offense. But if Kyler's limited to being just a pocket passer because he's not quite fully back yet, that's going to be a problem. I mean, I still think Kyler's an upgrade from Dobbs, but it really is going to come down to how healthy is that ACL.
All right, well, things keep getting worse for the Giants here. I mean, Daniel Jones, he came back, but then he went down with an injury. And now the team's going to ride with Tommy DeVito. What'd you see from him in that little sample you got last week?
Whew. I mean, Tommy DeVito, 3.9 yards per pass play this year. He'll be the worst quarterback to earn a start this season. And I say that after talking about how bad Clayton Tune was last week. DeVito, in my opinion, is worse than Tune. And this is an all-time bad matchup for DeVito as well, because the Giants just don't have the talent to beat man coverage. I mean, we've seen Brian Daboll be able to scheme up sometimes against when teams are in zone, being able to kind of figure out what breaks those zone rules and get guys open. But when it's just mano a mano, man versus man, the Giants just cannot match up with this Dallas defense. And in fact, New York's yards per attempt against man this year is only 74% of their yards per attempt against zone. And Darren Waller's out, whose 59% success rate ranks 9th among tight ends. So it's not looking good for DeVito in the passing game, and he is going to be under pressure all day. Dallas leads the NFL in pressure rate. New York's offensive line ranks 30th in pass blocking efficiency, and backup right tackle Tyre Phillips is going to line up across from Micah Parsons. Going to be an absolute disaster. Dallas is a 17-point favorite for a reason, and I mean, DeVito is bad, and this is about as bad of a matchup as it gets as well. So I think their implied team total is something like 11 or 12 points, and I don't know if they can even get there.
Yeah, that is not good. I met a guy at Caesars the other day, a Giants fan. He said, if we're plus 20, take the other team for the rest of the season. He's like, we are bad.
What is your opinion? What number would this have to be for you to get interested in betting the Giants? I mean, if you saw Giants plus 21 in this game, would you pull the trigger? I mean, I don't know how high you can make this. It's been slowly going up. I think it opened 15.5. It's up to 17. But I mean, what's the number?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 21. Yeah, I guess 3 touchdowns. I mean, you hope that Dallas lets off the gas, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's ugly.
Yeah,
it's
and
really.
The thing is, the Giants do have a decent rush defense. So to your point about letting off the gas, I mean, maybe the Giants do go up, the Cowboys do go up 21, but the Giants' rush defense is pretty solid, and they can kind of just kill the game from there. Dallas doesn't score for the rest of the way. I mean, with spreads this high, you almost have to take what your model has and multiply by like 0.75 or 0.8, because you might just see the Cowboys put their backups in at the end, so you know that they're probably not going to be trying for all 60 minutes.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But we talked about the Browns O-line being banged up last week, but it looks like things are getting even worse. They got some guys playing through injury. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland starting left tackle Jedrick Wills will miss at least 4 weeks, and starting right tackle Jack Conklin was already out for the year. So the Browns will be down to 4th string tackle James Hudson against Baltimore's defense that has the 9th highest pressure rate in the NFL.
Well, we saw the Vikings rookie QB, Jaren Hall. He got knocked out of that game, and remarkably, Josh Dobbs came in and got the win on the road without knowing most of his teammates' names or the playbook. I mean, that was crazy. Kevin O'Connell was explaining how to read the progressions to Dobbs while he was walking up to the line of scrimmage. I mean, I don't think my brain can even comprehend how hard that is. What do you got for us on that?
I mean, yeah, O'Connell said it was the most impressive thing he's seen a player do in his entire career. It was insane that the Vikings got the win. And it was mostly because Dobbs, when he didn't see, the first read open, he was fully ready to just scramble and use his legs. Dobbs had 66 rushing yards against the Falcons, and he made the defense pay every time they turned their backs to him. And that's not new. We saw Dobbs doing that when he was in Arizona. In fact, Dobbs is averaging 0.15 EPA per play against man coverage this year compared to negative 0.20 EPA per play against zone. So if the Saints have the 7th highest man coverage rate, and if they're going to turn their backs to Dobbs again, Dobbs is just going to take off, and he could make them pay on the ground because his receiving options are bleak. So 2 starting wide receivers, Justin Jefferson and KJ Osborne, are out, which leaves Jordan Addison, who's 8th in EPA per target among wide receivers, one of the best rookies drafted in this most recent draft. But the Saints have guys to match up with Jordan Addison. I mean, they've got Marshawn Lattimore, who's 4th in pass breakups this year, and Paulson Adebo has had a breakout season as well. So I think Addison probably going to be shut down this week. And then the Saints rank 4th in pass success rate allowed to tight ends, so they're probably going to be able to shut down TJ Hawkinson as well. So it kind of really comes down to, can Dobbs get his scrambling yards up in the 70-ish range again? Because if not, it's not going to be tough sledding for Minnesota's offense.
Yeah, going to be a tough one for the astronaut, but I'm excited to keep watching this guy play. But we've got public opinion talk with me for our next segment. And after a weekend that had many great matchups, we have an even better take from the public this week. And so many people are writing off the Bills, saying, are the Bills dead?
Well, I think fans are rightfully concerned about Buffalo's 5-4 start. It seems somewhat warranted in the sense that if Buffalo loses on Monday night, their playoff chances fall to about 30%, which is crazy considering what the expectations were coming into the year. But I think Buffalo is going to be extremely focused in front of their home fans, and I'm certainly not panicking on this offense. I mean, Buffalo has the 2nd highest scoring differential in the NFL, but they're just 2-4 in one-score games, so they could easily rattle off a winning streak here down the stretch. The Bills are only averaging 1 point per game less than they were last year, and their 52% success rate on offense is better than their 49% success rate on offense in 2022. Josh Allen is playing great. He's 2nd in EPA per play among quarterbacks with a 2.2% PFF turnover-worthy throw rate. That's the 4th lowest in the NFL.
So you think they're probably going to turn it on here against Denver this week?
I do think they put up numbies against Denver. I mean, Broncos surrendering 0.46 EPA per targets, tight ends that's 31st in the NFL. We had Dalton Kincaid prop last week in Cincinnati. He's got another great matchup this week. Kincaid has a league high 69% success rate. So I like that matchup for the Bills. Denver's edge defender Nick Bonito ranks 11th in pass rushing efficiency. We talked about how Baron Browning comes back, gives him another threat off the edge, but both of those guys rush against left tackles. And that's where the Bills are strong. Deion Dawkins has only allowed 1 sack this season, and the Broncos rank 30th in EPA per rush allowed, and they will struggle against Buffalo's offense with a league-high 47% rush success rate.
If there's a time this season to put a Super Bowl future in on the Bills, is it right now?
I mean, yeah. If you think the Bills can turn it around, I certainly think their offense is among the best in the NFL. I think this is the bottom for the Bills. The problem is they're not going to be getting back Matt Milano, who is turning out to be even more crucial than everyone had imagined. So when he went out initially, I adjusted 1.5 points for Milano's absence in the middle of Buffalo's defense. But now, after watching how it's played out these past few weeks, I think Milano might be worth 3 points, which is insane to say for an off-ball linebacker. But Buffalo's defense just has not been able to hold up in the middle without Milano. So, and he's not going to be able to come back, not even for a postseason run. So I don't know. I don't know that they're going to be able to get it done in the playoffs against all these other juggernauts in the AFC, but you'd certainly rather have a great offense than a great defense. So with Josh Allen playing like he is, I think the Bills are still live to go on a run here down the stretch.
All right. Well, let's move over to our next segment where we've got stock up, stock down. Whose stock are you buying right now?
Well, I was very impressed by what I saw from Will Levis last Thursday night. We were fortunate to win Tennessee's team total under that we released as a strong opinion. I mean, Levis showed great poise behind a terrible offensive line. They were dropping like flies out there, and they're already a terrible offensive line, Tennessee. And they were going against an excellent pass rush in a tough road environment. So this week, they'll get Chris Hubbard back, which is good for the offensive line. But the thing that Levis is doing is he is bombing it, which is allowing them to hit chunk plays, even though from a down-to-down success rate standpoint, they're not that good. Levis has attempted a league high 19 passes with 20-plus air yards in the last 2 weeks, and that deep passing has enabled him to average 6.2 yards per pass play despite being pressured on nearly half his dropbacks. So Tampa Bay's defense ranks 25th in explosive pass rate allowed because that Ryan Neal signing this offseason just hasn't worked out. And they actually benched Ryan Neal, the starting safety, last week. And Tampa Bay only ranks 30th in pressure rate. So Levis should get a little more clean pockets to be able to look deep to wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, who's 10th in yards per route run. And Hopkins will have a favorable matchup against backup cornerback Zion McCollum with Buccaneers starting cornerback Jamel Dean out with a concussion.
All right, well, who do you got with their stock trending down right now?
Stock down, Gardner Minshew. And the Colts put up 27 last week, but that was solely because of 2 pick sixes. And Minshew wasn't able to do anything against that Carolina defense, missing, 6, 7 starters? And so now Minshew will go against Bill Belichick's defense, who I think is particularly well-suited to take advantage of Minshew. So New England's defense has the 3rd highest blitz rate, and Juwan Bentley's 13 pressures are 2nd highest of any off-ball linebacker. Loves to send guys from the second level. And Bill Belichick will dial up extra pass rushers in this Germany game as Gardner Minshew is averaging negative 0.27 EPA per play versus the blitz compared to positive 0.13 EPA per play against a standard pass rush. He's been terrible against the blitz. In fact, the Colts yards per attempt against the blitz is a league low 69% of their yards per attempt when the defense does not send more than 4 pass rushes. The other thing, Minshew has the highest turnover-worthy play rate of any quarterback in the NFL at 6.3%. And we know Bill Belichick's defense is very opportunistic. I think they're likely to get at least 1 interception on Sunday. So I don't like this matchup at all for Minshew. And then to make matters worse, he's without his most efficient wide receiver. Josh Downs, 10th in EPA per target. He re-aggravated his knee last week, and he's worth a half point to this Indianapolis offense.
All right. Well, our next segment here is the weather of the week. What are you seeing around the country and over in Germany?
Well, it could rain in Frankfurt for the Germany game, but last week we saw them put that temporary roof up. So maybe the rain doesn't affect this game at all. With that temporary roof up, though, that scoreboard seems awfully low. We saw the Dolphins punter hit it right before halftime, but it was nice to see the grass wasn't an issue like last year's Germany games.
Yeah, I was glad to see the Chiefs sneak that one out in Germany. I was feeling good at the nice little 6:30 wake-up call and going up 21-0 at halftime. I was like, all right, things are looking good, but they almost let that one slip. That was not good. But any other weather to note here?
Well, the other game to monitor is in Seattle, where it could be wet, which kind of takes away from the potential fireworks in that matchup. I mean, we've seen Eric Bieniemy treat Sam Howell like he has Patrick Mahomes under center. He is absolutely firing away with the pass rate this year. And then Geno Smith will be looking for a bounce back after Seattle's 6 first downs in Baltimore last game were the lowest they've had in the Pete Carroll era. So I think both of these offenses had the potential to put up points, but if it's going to rain in Seattle, that's certainly going to put a damper on this game, make it sloppy, make it a little bit grimy. I like the Seahawks more in a game like that than the Commanders, but we'll just have to monitor to see what the weather is looking like this week.
All right, well, we've got our DraftKings player of the slate, and last week you gave us A.J. Brown, who continued his touchdown streak. But who's on the sheet for you this week?
This week, I'm going to go a little off the radar. Last week, I took kind of a slam dunk A.J. Brown pick, but this week, I'm going to go with Kyle Phillips, listed at only 3,000 on DraftKings. We talked in the previous segment about how we like Will Levis in this matchup when he can get some more clean pockets to throw those bombs downfield. But Phillips tied for the league lead in receptions last week with DeAndre Hopkins, second-year UCLA wide receiver, seems to have pretty good chemistry with Levis, and Treylon Burks likely out for this game. So I think we can expect at least 5 targets for Phillips again, and this time in a better matchup. He got 68 yards last week, and if we can get that, plus maybe he sneaks in the end zone. I mean, the Titans stalled out in the red zone 3 times last week. They kicked 3 field goals and 4 opportunities inside the red zone. You know, they turn one of those into a Phillips touchdown. He'd be a great bargain at 3,000 with some good upside, and using a player at only 3,000 allows you to get some fantasy studs into the lineup that cost a lot more.
Yeah, I think the dynasty community will like to hear that one because there was a lot of people talking him up last year. But we've got our primetime preview next, and that is our Sunday night matchup where we will see the New York Jets at the Las Vegas Raiders. And the Raiders looked like a different team after the coaching change. But I think we got to talk about this Jets offense because they have been absolutely awful.
Yeah, historically awful. They're converting 22% of their third downs. No offense has had a lower conversion rate than that since they started keeping track of the stat in 1978. So worst third down offense in memory since they've been tracking. That's insane. And then it could be getting worse. I mean, New York backup right tackle Billy Turner surrendered 3 sacks last week, but he has a hand injury. He might not be able to go this week. And we know who lines up across from right tackles for the Raiders. That's Max Crosby, whose 53 pressures lead the NFL. So if it's Turner, that's already bad for the Jets. If they have to bring in someone else at right tackle, that makes it even worse.
Yeah, this feels like it's setting up to be a disastrous week for Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not going to get any clean pockets, but his saving grace could be the likely absence of Raiders cornerback Marcus Peters, who's allowing just 6.8 yards per target with 4 pass breakups this season. Because when Peters is out, that means backup Jacorian Bennett is in. And Bennett is surrendering 10.2 yards per target this year. So anytime the Jets can get Garrett Wilson lined up across from Bennett, that is going to be a favorable matchup for them.
Yeah, and looking at the Raiders, their O-line's been really good this year, but it kind of feels like the Jets have had pretty much everyone's number. What do you expect from them?
Yeah, that Jets pass rush has been getting pressure on everyone. Doesn't matter how good the offensive line is. Now, the Raiders conceded only 1 pressure last week, and they do rank 3rd in pass blocking efficiency. So they have been better than I think most people assume Las Vegas's offensive line was going to be going into the year. But the Jets have the 2nd highest pressure rate, and the concern for the Raiders will be at right tackle, where Jermaine Eluemunor has surrendered 5 sacks, as 4th most in the NFL, and he'll line up across from John Franklin Meyers, who ranks 4th in pass rushing efficiency. So could be a lot of pressure off that right side, while maybe the rest of the Raiders offensive line could keep this Jets pass rushing unit in check.
Yeah, and how does this Jets secondary match up with the Raiders receivers?
Well, this is the most fun matchup in this game, and maybe the only reason to tune in to this Sunday night game. So we've got Davante Adams and Jakobi Meyers, who are both among the 23 qualifying wide receivers with a success rate above 54%. So 2 top 25 wide receivers in the NFL against 2 top 10 cornerbacks in the NFL. I mean, DJ Reed, 7th in yards per cover snap allowed. Sauce Gardner, 9th in yards per cover snap allowed. So the Reed and Gardner versus Adams and Meyers is going to be a great battle on Sunday night.
Yeah, and we saw Josh Jacobs pop off last week. I think the coaching change helped him here.
Yeah, I mean, and he's up to 7th in yards per route run as a receiver, but I think that will get shut down by New York's defense, who ranks 3rd in pass success rate allowed to running back. So I don't know. I mean, the Jets are just strong everywhere defensively. It's hard to beat them. Maybe the one place you could beat them is if you have an elite tight end, but we even saw Patrick Mahomes struggle in Travis Kelce when they played the Jets. I mean, Kelce had a decent game, but they still offensively overall weren't that good against this team. So we've got our model favors the Jets by 0.3. So basically a pick 'em. We've got a predicted total of 34.6 in this one.
All right. Well, you always give us a primetime prop, and you won last week with Kincaid over 37.5 yards. What do you got for us this week?
This week, I'm going to say Jakobi Meyers under 45.5 receiving yards. So Antonio Pierce, when he was talking about Josh Jacobs, he said, he's our heartbeat. He's our workhorse. He's a Raider. He's always going to be a Raider. And when Josh Jacobs is running, the Raiders are winning. That to me says that this, defensive-minded head coach really believes that establishing the ground game is the way to win in the NFL. So we'll probably see an uptick in run play rate for the Raiders. The other thing is Antonio Pierce has identified Davante Adams as the team leader, and he wants to feed Adams. So we could probably be seeing more targets to Davante Adams, who's been kind of, even 50-50 split between workload with him and Jakobi Meyers when Josh McDaniels was calling the play. So someone has to lose out if Jacobs and Adams are getting more work. To me, that's going to be Jakobi Meyers. And this game, Jakobi Meyers is going to be mostly lined up against all-pro cornerback Sauce Gardner. So it just seems like a huge uphill slog for him to get, into that 50 receiving yards area. I think it's much more likely he goes under 45.5 in this game.
I like that one. Well, college basketball just started, but it's not too late to sign up as we have plays pretty much every single day through March. And for those watching this one, Friday, there's a huge matchup between Arizona and Duke. What do you got for us in that one?
Yeah, I think this is the game of the year thus far. I mean, both teams destroyed soft competition in their openers on Monday, and I've got this Duke team, among the best in the country, which is right around mark. I mean, Kyle Filipowski is an All-American candidate after opting to return for his sophomore season, but Mark Mitchell's status will be important to monitor after he missed the game against Dartmouth, because Mitchell is Duke's best wing defender with a 7-foot wingspan, and importantly, he doesn't foul. Mitchell ranked 26th out of 2,253 eligible players last year in foul avoidance. So when you have a 7-foot wingspan, you can lock everyone down and you don't foul. That's very, very good for Duke's defense. So hopefully he can be on the court for this marquee matchup.
Yeah, what do you think about the Arizona team?
Well, they're going to have a tough time replacing the production they got last year from DeBellis. He was the rare combination of efficiency on high volume with a 58% effective field goal percentage and a 28% usage rate. So, he's out the door. They bring in Keyshawn Johnson, transfer from San Diego State. He had a great first game, and he is going to be a reason that Mitchell's status is so important because Mitchell would, going to be defending Johnson on the wing. Arizona sends out inefficient gunner guard Kirk Risa, but they bring in another chucker in Caleb Love. So that's kind of a wash to me. This roster on paper just looks like the worst they've had in the Tommy Lloyd era. It's not like they're going to fall off a cliff, but this seems like more of a borderline top 20 squad to me rather than the top 10 team they've had since Lloyd got to Arizona.
All right, well, if you're going to give the people something you're leaning towards, would it be a side or a total?
I think Duke should be favored by at least 6 if Mitchell is in. So there could be some value on the Blue Devils in what should be an awesome environment in the game of the season thus far.
All right, well, I think that'll do it for the pod this week. Remember to check out the college football and NFL free analysis at drbobsports.com, and we will be back next Friday. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe.